Well, hello and welcome to the Super Summer Series TV Grand Final Edition for season 24-25. It's all happening this Sunday at Mountain Valley Golf Course at 2:30 p.m, where the Fuggies will take on the Golf Gods. After 10 rounds, it will all be down to Sunday to see who takes home the claret jug for this season. We're going to invite Ben from Berkeley Golf into the show as we look at the semi-finals, break those down to see what the analysis of those are and where teams need to improve, and we'll also preview the big grand final coming up this Sunday. Welcome, Ben, and pleasure to have you back on board for the grand final edition, third season of Super Summer Series. What has been some of your highlights for the year?
Oh, well, I think the yo-yo of results has certainly been one. Some can argue whether the handicapper has got it right or wrong. The jury's certainly out for that, but certainly the yo-yo results, and I think the most important thing was that there was about 7 or 8 teams that were right in it up until the final game of the season to play finals.
Well, that's a really good prelude into the ladder, and we hope you can see that at home. And we talk about the handicapper, but the St Albans Old Boys finishing on top with 7 wins. So finishing on top, disappointing to have lost that semi-final. The Golf Gods second, Water Cannons third, the Fuggies fourth. Spazball last year's premiers finishing last, so really disappointing year for them, and we'll talk about Spazball a little bit later on the program. But the interesting thing about the ladder is the Golf Gods, who finished second, had 2 no results. So 2 rounds that they didn't play because they couldn't fit them in within the parameters of the schedule. And also the impacted teams were Specialist Fielders and Clutch & Co. And had they played those games and won, they'd be playing finals and not the Fuggies. And had Live Golf won their last game, had it not been for probably the team not gelling as they would have liked, and I'm led to believe Mark Ellison in a round that was required for him to perform probably didn't reach the performance that was required. So all those teams had the chance to make finals, so the Fuggies have just scraped in.
They have, and they were obviously as well, let's be honest. I know Mark Ellison thinks the argument's getting tiresome. I don't think it is. The Fuggies probably got into finals due to early wins and due to a very extortionate handicap. That was right out. So I think that's probably a reason why they're playing finals. Also, Specialist Fielders and Clutch & Co. can consider themselves unlucky to miss, given that they had the 1 no result, given the Golf Gods weren't able to schedule those games in. So you can probably feel that they were probably going to play finals as well. So you can feel some hurt and pain for the Specialist Fielders and Clutch & Co, that's for sure.
Yeah, the handicapper, although having said that, I know there's been a lot of conjecture about the handicapper. When you look at it with out of the 10 teams, 6 of them all having a crack at making finals in the last round. Probably done a fair job, but I appreciate the Fuggies starting off with 9. Lots of conjecture around those early wins in that handicap that helped them and able to get those wins. But let's have a look at the semi-final. It was the Fuggies who defeated the St Albans Old Boys. Not flattering scores from either teams there for teams that made finals. A 41 off the stick for the Fuggies, a 45 off the stick for the St Albans Old Boys. What the worst round the St Albans Old Boys have played for the year. Had we got our normal average, which was around the 38 to 39, we would have come home and been playing off a GF, but it was an absolute mare for us. But the Fuggies got the victory, and we'll play, and we have a look at that. 1 par, 1 birdie for the Fuggies, not flattering either, but for St Albans Old Boys, just the 1 par, no birdies, but 2 double bogeys. So an absolute shock for St Albans Old Boys.
Yeah, not too much confidence to tip a grand final winner with that scoreline. Yeah, not too great, I'm afraid. You shoot a 45, you're not going to win too many games of golf, particularly in this competition, and particularly in the semi-final. So definitely, not a great game, not a great showing for the semi-finalists, but nonetheless, congratulations to the Fuggies on their victory there and a grand final berth.
And we'll have a little bit more to talk about the Fuggies a little bit later on as we preview the grand final. We'll have a look at the losing teams of the semi-final, talk about their future, and the St Albans Old Boys finishing with 7 wins. Our best season by far, our best season over the average, scoring, par or under, playing to a handicap. So finishing on top, disappointing semi-final, but we'll stick fat, and we are there for next year. But the thing I'd like to comment on is all the conjecture and all the commentary around Andrew Graham, who was our reserve player, and I will state that, reserve player Andrew Graham was stated at the launch that he was our reserve player, but all the conjecture around Andrew Graham, should he play in the finals and what will the selection be, he was always the designated reserve player. And I had to check myself with all the commentary around Andrew Graham. Was it Danger Graham or Danger Woods? I mean, he was the reserve player, Ben, and quite rightly, he played 4 games. I played 7. Livio played 8. So I'm not sure what the conjecture was about. Admittedly, we didn't have a good round, but from a St Albans Old Boys perspective, we're there, we're going to stick fat. Really disappointing that Andrew showed some dissent when he wasn't given the nod to play in the semi-final and did some social media comments which, you know, in my mind were disappointing. So Danger is an option to make next year. Does he want to be part of the third wheel, or can he enter the draft? I'm not fussed. I was disappointed in the way he handled himself after the selection. In my mind, it wasn't a selection decision. It was a reserve player, and the St Albans Old Boys as Livio Tadero and myself.
Yeah, well, look, had the pleasure of door-stopping Andrew Graham at the Keilor Village while having coffee 24 hours before tea time, and he was pretty confident he was going to get the selection and get the nod to play in a semi-final. Obviously, that didn't go his way, and he acted accordingly. I suppose the only question is, will this be the trio for the St Albans Old Boys next season?
Well, that's up to Danger. He's the one who clearly showed some levels of disappointment publicly, and we're disappointed in that. We pride ourselves at St Albans Old Boys sticking together. Andrew didn't show that, so it's totally up to him. If he wants to enter the draft, that's totally up to him, but he's welcome with the St Albans Old Boys if he wants to be part of the fold and stick to the unity, which is, you know, the team unity, and that he's sticking to the code and demonstrating publicly that we're one.
Well, we'll see next year, won't we? We'll see what happens in the off-season.
The Golf Gods versus the Water Cannons. The Golf Gods 31, 4 pars, 5 birdies. So they had a handicap of +4, a 35, defeated the Water Cannons with 3 holes to go. The Water Cannons, I think they had 4 or 5 shots. 5 shots with 3 holes to go. Absolutely thought that they would be a shoo-in. They finished with 3 birdies, 5 pars, 1 birdie, but the 3 bogeys have been an absolute killer for the Cannons. Credit to the handicapper. It went down to the last hole. We saw Lucas Elliott sink that putt from about 12 feet. An absolute fantastic putt. Hung over the edge for that split second, and then got sunken on the playoff hole. The Golf Gods got it. But yeah, what a fantastic game.
Yeah, look, I mean, if you're the Fuggies, you're very nervous with that scoreline and that scorecard that the Golf Gods have put on with 4 pars and 5 birdies. That's certainly an impressive scoreline, and the Fuggies will need to be right on top of their game if they want to win this grand final with that scoreline. Look, it was said in the group chat, in the comms, that it would be the greatest choke since Ned Kelly if the Water Cannons lost it, and they did. They lost it. They had it all but sewn up in the last hole. All they needed was a par, and they would have won and gone through to their 2nd out of 3 grand finals. However, yeah, a bogey, an ordinary tee shot that didn't quite set them up, and then a couple of lagging putts was probably what cost them a grand final berth in that. And maybe the pressure got to them, and maybe the comments surrounding a potential choke got to them as well. They weren't quite cool, calm and collected under pressure, that's for sure.
Well, Wayne Wynnum is probably talked about as probably being the premier golfer of the Water Cannons duo. But Pete Delbridge did a lot of the heavy lifting in that semi-final, and really got off the tee well, did a lot of heavy lifting. Wayne Wynnum, by his own standards, was probably disappointing. And so in terms of the future of the Cannons, the rumours just won't go away about this group being fractured. Will they or won't they be together? The team harmony has always been an issue. It's always been widely discussed. Where do you see their future?
Well, the pre-game arm-in-arm embrace was one of the most awkward brotherly love teammate hugging I've seen in a long, long time, and it just made me think that they really don't like each other, and this is all a bit of a show. So I certainly think that come trade season, both members of the Water Cannons will be asking the question of other members and who's in the draft pool to see if there's another team made available for the both of them. I don't think the Water Cannons will last, and I think they've done their dash in the Super Summer Series.
As soon as you point your raise about the awkwardness, because I don't know that what's more awkward, the Anthony Albanese and Tanya Blivosic fresh air kiss, or the Wayne Wynnum and Peter Delbridge arm-in-arm hug pre-match of the semi-final. It seems some awkwardness there. They're not comfortable together as a duo.
It just seemed to linger on too long as well. It felt like that they weren't convincing enough, so they felt that it needed to linger on a bit longer.
And it showed. When you've got 5 shots up with 3 holes to go, it shows that that teamwork there, that morale, that sense of team dynamics was a little bit lost. And I know Pete Delbridge was certainly disappointed after the game with the performance of Wayne Wynnum. Righto, let's have a look at Spazball. So the Premiers, just a little quick shout out for Spazball. They were the Premiers. A really disappointing year for them to finish getting that wooden spoon. So it's really disappointing that Spazball have achieved that. And look, I think the crack started to show. They've tried to keep their chin up. I certainly think Bagger has held his head high as a reigning Premier and kept himself in good stead and shown some, real class about it. But I don't know that I can say the same thing for their skipper Chris Coghlan, who has shown signs of fragility. He's shown signs of dissent around the handicapper and the fixturing and all sorts of excuses around why Spazball finished last. And look, there's been, since the final series have commenced, I just want to talk you through, we'll have a look at Chris Coghlan there, some of the things that he's done on the WhatsApp group, which is really concerning to the Commission. So at least twice he's hashtag rigged around the competition and the handicap. At least 4 times he's gone hashtag that it's a rort. And at least 2 occasions he's used some more colourful language to describe the kind of rort that is. That is a clear breach of Super Summer Series rules. There is a clear rule in there, Ben, that talks about players are not able to publicly defame or discredit the Commission or its handicapper, with a maximum fine of up to $10 for each breach. Now, I could probably look through the WhatsApp feed and find more instances of that, but what I can say from the Commission, that Chris Coghlan will be sanctioned for those breaches of the Super Summer Series constitution, and a fine of $80, a penalty of $80 is hereby imposed on Chris Coghlan for those social media posts, and he still remains the highest penalised player in terms of fines for a breach of the competition. It's really disappointing for a reigning Premier, but he's shown signs of fragility, which is really disappointing.
Yeah, look, not what you want to see in the communications page, and particularly as relentless as he's been. It's been pretty demanding and pretty demeaning, of course, to the Commission, and certainly he's made up his mind of what he thinks of the Triple S competition. Look, he's the most successful team in Super Summer Series history thus far to be a wooden spooner and also a claret jug recipient. So certainly their trophy cabinet is the most full that we've seen amongst those teams, and pretty successful too. In 2 seasons they've won 2 trophies, so that's pretty impressive. Look, all I'll say is that the Premiership hangover is a real curse in the Super Summer Series. Saw it at the Water Cannons, they didn't quite stoop as low as bottom of the ladder in their second season, but they failed to make finals. And the same thing has happened this year with Spazball. They've failed to make finals after a Premiership success the previous season.
Now, he is unfortunately injured. He was unable to play the last few rounds. We know he's going in for some post-season surgery, which I'm led to believe is a hip replacement. So we do send our best to you, Chris Coghlan, for that surgery. But I'm really worried about his physical fitness. He's had a knee replacement. He's now going into what I'm led to believe is a hip replacement. He's not yet 60, and I have to admit I've seen more healthier 90-year-olds in my mother's nursing home than Chris Coghlan. So it's a real concern that these are the type of debilitating injuries that Chris Coghlan is faced with. He doesn't strike me as a hard in and under AFL footballer back in his day, so I'm struggling to understand where these injuries come from, but we do wish him all the best.
We do, and it probably poses a question into Bagger's ear as well, in his mind, whether he does go and look in the draft pool and see what else is out there for him, given the uncertainty surrounding Chris Coghlan's future.
There's 2 things Coggers needs to do. It's to get his body right and to certainly get his mind right, because both have shown signs of real ailing in recent weeks.
Certainly.
Right, let's have a look at the grand final preview. A big game this Sunday. It is the Golf Gods versus the Fuggies. When they last met, it was back in round 3. The Fuggies got the bickies on that day, but they did have a handicap of 8.5. How generous was that? And they defeated the Golf Gods, who shot probably not their best round. Having said that, they only had a handicap of +7.5. They shot a 34. The Fuggies shot a 40. And really, with a handicap of 8.5 and you shoot a 40, not many teams are going to beat you. So they got the bickies that round. But now we have a look at what the handicaps are for this Sunday. This is what I think everyone's been waiting for. What are the handicaps? The Fuggies Can you believe it? They go from a 4, and you might have been very right there around how they played that beautifully and just got that 41. They go out to a 5.25.
Look, when I saw the scorecard and they won by 4 shots off the stick, where they had a handicap advantage, I immediately thought that there was some sandbagging going on. I wouldn't put it beyond Jeff Reeves or Dave Sortino. They're pretty smart people and pretty smart men, that they would know to do the sandbagging, and I think it's shown. I think the handicapper has certainly fallen for their trick, and given them a slight little advantage come to the grand final. To go out a shot and a half, nearly 1.25, is quite a significant increase going into a grand final from a semi-final.
Let's have a look at the golf gods. They go up by just 0.25. So they go out, they won, they shot a 31, but plus 4.25. So that's a shot a hole the Fuggies have. Clearly, it's going to be hard to lose. I think it's all ahead of the golf gods, but certainly the handicap now favours the Fuggies. How do you see this game playing out?
Well, if we go to the golf guys and they shoot another 31, I think they're going to be hard to beat. However, I do think the Fuggies were playing with the handicapper a bit, having a 41. If they manage to shoot under 40 with that handicap, I think they will get the chocolates, and I think they'll get to raise the claret jug come Sunday afternoon. So I certainly think the Fuggies, if they're able to shoot under 40, they'll get the win this week.
It's interesting you say that, Ben. If we look at their scores from the semi-finals, the Fuggies shot a 41, the golf gods shot a 31. So if those scores play out on the grand final, the golf gods get the claret jug. But if the Fuggies shoot a better score than 41, which is what they should do, can you believe that the Fuggies in their first season are having just scraped into the finals? Many are saying it's kind of like the Stephen Bradbury experience. That many teams have fallen over to allow them to get into the finals. This could be a Stephen Bradbury moment for the Fuggies if they shoot a 40 or under.
Yeah, look, absolutely. I think the Fuggies need to obviously get under that 40 on the scorecard, and they will be, as I mentioned, the winners on that. But you'd be nervous if you're the Fuggies. If the golf gods come out and they're known to be good under pressure, we've seen it in the semi-final, and they come out and get a 31 again, the pressure's right on the Fuggies to get that win. I think it's going to go down to the last hole again.
I think all the pressure's on Jeff Reeves. We know Dave Sortino is a very consistent golfer. Off the tee, off the fairway. Now, Jeff Reeves talks up his putting game. I mean, he struts around the putting green like a prize bull he does, thinking, putting's my game, putting's my game. I'm yet to actually see it. I'm actually yet to see Jeff Reeves live up to the talk that he imposes around how good he putts. So I think Dave Sortino has got a lot of heavy lifting to do on Sunday. If Reeves can get this putting game that he so much talks about together, and they can shoot a 39, it's going to be very hard for the golf gods.
Yeah, look, I think, as I said, it's going to go down to the wire. I think if the golf gods get a bogey in their round, if they get one bogey, I think that will probably give the Fuggies the title. So if they shoot another clean scorecard like they did last week with the 5 pars and 4 birdies, anything can happen. The Fuggies could fold under pressure and it could go down to the last.
Who wins for you?
I'm going to say the Fuggies are going to shoot under the scorecard. They're going to under 40 on the scorecard, and they'll get the win and to lift the claret jug come Sunday afternoon. Shooting under 40 is their key.
Golf gods get the tip. They play front or back. What would you do?
If I'm the golf gods, I'm taking the Fuggies on the back. Plenty of mistakes can happen on that back 9. Plenty of water around. A tough start as well. You've got 10, 11 and 12 and 13. All very tough holes to be able to manipulate around the course. Not sure they've got the precision with the clubs in hand like the golf gods do. So if the golf gods take them on the back 9, that gives them the slight advantage as well.
All right, so it's the Fuggies for you.
I'm going to go the Fuggies.
Fairy, with a shot a hole, it's really theirs to lose.
And the handicap as well.
All right, so the trade period, we will have a trade period. It will commence on the 1st of May. We will have a special Super Summer Series TV trade special where we'll break down the teams around which teams are going to stick and which teams are going to split. But for the moment, it is all about Sunday, the grand final, 2:30 p.m. It is the golf gods taking on the Fuggies. We invite all players to come down from Super Summer Series to come in and watch on. It really is great viewing. We'll have a couple of buggies on hire. We'll have some complimentary drinks that we'll have after the game. Put on your Super Summer Series polo, get down there if you can, and come and watch the action live. we're really looking forward to what should be another fantastic grand final. We've got the best team with the two best players, the Golf Gods, taking on the Stephen Bradbury of the competition in the Fuggies in Dave Sorterno and Jeff Reeves. Really looking forward to it, Ben. Looking forward to seeing you there. And hopefully we'll see you all there on Sunday, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode of Super Summer Series TV, which will be the trade special.